What's up, people? Welcome back to Daily Red Devil, and welcome to the latest installment of our Topic Focus series. For each episode, we deep dive into a different topic around Manchester United. This week, we're going to be exploring how Manchester United could line up under Erik ten Hag in the up-and-coming season. Now, before we get started, I do ask that you please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. And let's jump straight on into this topic. There's one thing I want to note as well before we do get on with the video. At this point of recording, Rasmus, Hojlund and Sofyan Amrabat have not yet signed for Manchester United, although it does look likely, as it stands, that both of those players will be at the club. But yeah, just to give full clarity, they haven't signed yet. So if people are saying, why are you talking about this? He's not, Hojlund hasn't signed yet. Obviously, I've explained my reasoning. So let's jump straight on into this right now. So we've got two different formations to look at on this video today. So the first one's a 4-3-3 with a slightly more defensive midfielder being Casemiro. Obviously, last season we played a 4-2-3-1 under Erik ten Hag, which for me was far too defensive. I didn't really like that formation that much, but we do know that Erik ten Hag also liked to play a 4-3-3 at Ajax, as well as a 3-4-1-2 as well. So yeah, for the first bit of this video, we're going to be exploring the 4-3-3 with the kind of more defensive midfielder being Casemiro. So I think I've obviously got the team up on the left or the right of my face. I don't know where it is in relation to you looking at the video, but yeah, you can see the team up here and you can kind of see the depth that we have for next season. So we've got Onana in goal with Matas Kovar as the backup. That's probably what's going to happen at this point. We've got left back Luke Shaw with Malacia as the backup. We've got a defensive partnership of Martinez and Varane with Lindelof and Maguire as the two partners. We've got Wan-Bissaka on the right hand side with Dalot as the backup. Then we've got a midfield three of Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro, and in the backup roles we've got Sofyan Amrabat in place of Casemiro, Christian Eriksen in place of Mason Mount, and Kobe Mainoo in place of Bruno Fernandes. Now you're probably thinking, where's Donny van de Beek, where's Fred, where's McTominay? As you can see from my team there, none of these people kind of are part of my plans. And I don't think they're part of Erik ten Hag's plans either, because when you look at the squad we have there, when you look at the depth, like that looks pretty solid, doesn't it? But let's move on to the rest of the positions and we can come back to that point in a minute. On the left, I've got Rashford with Garnacho as the backup. Down the middle, I've got Rasmus Hojlund with Jadon Sancho as the backup. And then on the right, I've got Anthony with Amad Diallo as the backup. And again, you're probably thinking, where is Anthony Martial? For me, Anthony Martial needs to go. So, yeah, I'm not even considering him as a backup for Hojlund at the moment, because in my opinion, we can't rely on him. He's not injured. He's injured all the time. He's not an option in my eyes. So for now, I've gone with Jadon Sancho as the false nine, because that is what Erik ten Hag has been trialling in pre-season. He's openly said that he's going to try Jadon as a false nine in the up-and-coming season. So I do think that for the case of this argument, people like Donny, people like Fred, people like Anthony Martial, I think we'll be sat here at the beginning of the season and most of those players will probably be gone, maybe bar Anthony Martial. But again, as I said, I don't think we can rely on Anthony Martial, so I've not included him in my team for today. But as always, do let me know what you think of this lineup that I've put together here. I'm quite happy with it. I think it's quite solid. I really, really do. Obviously, defensive-wise, I think we're really, really solid. Luke Shaw, Martinez, Varane and Wan-Bissaka. I'm really, really happy about that. And obviously, the backup options of having Malacia, Lindelof, Maguire and Dalot. And I know some of you are going to be screaming at your screen right now saying, we need to get rid of Maguire. Why have you included him? Obviously, if we get rid of Maguire, I would go for someone like Disasi, Todibo, or maybe even Benjamin Pavard from Bayern Munich. So there are other options there. But just for the sake of this video, I think out of all the people that I've missed, I think Maguire probably is the most likely to stay, whereas I could see Scott McTominay going to West Ham. Fred's pretty much left the club already. Donny looks like he's going to go back to Ajax, etc., etc. So that's why I've excluded them from this squad. Obviously, there can be more people who are not included on this, but at the end of the day, Erik ten Hag will want to have a relatively tight squad and not be over, have too many players, because that's normally what happened with Chelsea and it went really, really badly wrong, didn't it? But so just to be very clear, the formation that we've got here is a 4-3-3, but with a slightly more defensive player in Casemiro. This would be the kind of formation I'd play at home against a lower table team, so maybe against the Bournemouth, maybe against someone in the kind of bottom half of the league. I would play with this. It's pretty attacking. Obviously, you've got two attacking midfielders in Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes, and then you just have Casemiro as the number 6. So you only really have one defensive midfielder in this formation. You've not got how we were last season, where we did a 4-2-3-1, where you only had two people playing as defensive midfielders. Here it's very, very attacking. You know, if Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka push forward, you've ultimately got a really, really attacking formation there, which I think will work really, really well, and I think it will help us dominate those games. You know that Erik ten Hag likes to sit on the halfway line. He likes to have the ball. You know, you see Onana in that game against Real Madrid. He was literally halfway between our goal and the halfway line for most of the time when we had the ball. So you can really imagine with this formation and this lineup, us really pushing up the pitch and really kind of boxing the opponent in at home at Old Trafford with the crowd behind us, and I think will be really, really difficult to beat. So I really, really like this formation, and I really, really like the depth we have here. I think you have Garnacho to come off, you have Eriksen, you have Mainu, you have Amrabat. You've got a really, really solid foundation here, and I think I honestly think we could beat any team in the Premier League at home with this formation and with this playing style. And this is kind of what I expect to see from Erik ten Hag next season. I do expect to see a 4-3-3. That is what he was more known for at Ajax. The 4-2-3-1 that he played last season definitely was more pragmatic. He definitely saw that he had to get Champions League football. He had to see out games. And I think that was why we saw that more pragmatic style of football. But I do expect this season to be a 4-3-3, it to be more attacking. And as you can see from this formation, it is definitely more attacking. As soon as you push those players up and every one of our players is in their half, it's going to be really, really difficult for them to defend against. You know, you've got people like Mason Mount, you've got Bruno, you've also got Casemiro, who's good at putting balls through, and then you've got the pace of Rashford on the left, you've got Hojlund. I think that would be really, really dangerous, and I honestly would stand by that we could beat any team at Old Trafford with this formation and with this lineup. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about that one. Do let me know in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this formation. Do you think that Erik ten Hag will play the 4-3-3 as I've suggested? Do you think he'll try something different? Let me know. As always, I would love to get you guys' opinions. So do jump in the comment section and do let me know what you guys think. Now, let's move over to the second formation. So just to be very, very clear, this one that we've been talking about for the first 10 minutes or so is how I expect Erik ten Hag to play at home against the more, I don't want to say easy teams because no team in the Premier League's easy, but against the lower table teams, let's say, okay? This is how I expect us to set up against those teams. It's very attacking. It's obviously you've got one defensive midfielder, but you have got Bruno and Mason Mount, who are both very, very attacking and creative. So that's how I expect us to set up at home or against the lesser teams, let's call them. And then the second formation, which we'll jump into now, is how I expect us to set up against Liverpool away, against Manchester City, against Arsenal, and some of those really, really difficult away games. So let's jump straight into that one. Okay, here we go. So this one again is a 4-3-3, but it's a little bit different. It's been kind of mixed up a little bit. So the defensive line's exactly the same. We've got the same players. The goalkeeper's the same. But the massive difference here is that Amrabat is playing instead of Mason Mount. So what you've got here is more of the kind of formation that we played last season. It's more of a 4-2-3-1. This is what I would expect Erik ten Hag to do when we go and play Liverpool away, Manchester City away, or Arsenal away. Because ultimately with this formation, you've ultimately got 6 defenders, right? You've got Luke Shaw, Martinez, Varane, and Wan-Bissaka. But then you've also got Amrabat and Casemiro, who are both very, very defensive-minded. They sit in front of the back four. They ultimately can drop back as extra defenders. And then the only person you have as the kind of attacking midfielder is Bruno Fernandes. And you do maybe hit on the counter-attack a little bit more. Now, obviously, I know people are going to be sitting there saying, I don't want to play that type of football next season, but we did really, really poorly against the big kind of 6, if you like, away from home last season. Even when we went to teams like Brighton, we got absolutely battered by Brighton 4-0. We really, really need to improve our away form. And I think that Amrabat is the key to this signing, because last season we tried to play this formation away from home, but it was Eriksen who was playing where Amrabat is on your screen right now, okay? It was Eriksen and Casemiro as 2 defensive midfielders, and it just didn't work. Eriksen doesn't have the physicality. He doesn't have the legs anymore. And every single time we went away, you have the crowd against you, and our midfield got completely overrun. Whereas I think with this formation here, with the 4-2-3-1, away from home, you've got Amrabat and Casemiro, 2 elite defensive midfielders, in my opinion. Casemiro obviously is elite. Amrabat, I think, is quality as well. So 2 really, really good defensive-minded midfielders. But then you've also got Bruno Fernandes up front. You've got Rasmus, Hojlund, you've got Rashford, and you've got Antony as your kind of strike force, which I do like. I think that's a solid strike force. But you do have the kind of the safety of knowing you've got Amrabat and Casemiro, who are going to be really, really difficult to get past. Obviously, the thing with Amrabat that you have to remember is from last season, he was in the top 16% of players of not letting people get past him. So he was really, really difficult to get past, okay? He ranked in the top 16% on take-ons, you know? So really, really strong in that position. And that was what we massively lacked last year. Eriksen, as much as I like him, as good as he is going forward and creatively at passing and all the rest of it, he is really, really weak in that midfield, in my opinion. And when you go to those really difficult away games, I do just thought that he would get overrun and we'd ultimately just lose the game as a result of it. Because it's the oldest, most cliche saying in the history of football, but the midfield battle is ultimately what wins games, isn't it? The games are won and lost in the midfield. And I don't think a midfield of Eriksen and Casemiro, when you're away against Manchester City, when you're away against Arsenal, when you're away against Liverpool, I just don't think that's solid enough. So I really, really like this formation, the 4-2-3-1, away from home, against the bigger teams. Obviously, Erik ten Hag does play this formation as well. He plays a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. So yeah, I think this will be really, really good away from home, and I think it will help us pick up some much needed points, because our away form last year was absolutely appalling. Let's be completely honest. As much as I love Erik ten Hag, he 100% is the right man for the job, no doubt about it. But last year we were really, really poor away from home. We lost to Liverpool, lost to Arsenal, we got battered by Brentford, we got battered by Aston Villa, we got battered by Manchester City. We lost we got battered by Newcastle. We lost a lot of games last year. It was our home form that was really, really strong. And that's why I've said this other formation for when we're at home would work really, really well. The 4-3-3, but with Mason Mount and Fernandes at home. We were dominating teams at home last year, and I think we need to keep up that momentum. Our home form next year needs to be as good as it was last season, because otherwise it does put a lot of pressure on your away form, doesn't it? But as I said, I do really think that this team that I've kind of put together here for those big away matches will be really, really solid. I think it will be really, really hard for us to be broken down in the midfield area, and I do think we will pick up more points as a result of it. But the key thing you can see here, the main piece of this puzzle, is Amrabat. I think Amrabat is absolutely essential to help us improve our away form next season, because if it's Eriksen again, I think we'll really, really struggle away from home. I do. I know there's a lot of excitement around Kobbie Mainoo, but I think it's maybe too early to be relying on Kobbie Mainoo to be playing next to Casemiro against Liverpool away from home. I'm not kind of putting him down in any way whatsoever, but, at the end of the day, he is only 18 years of age. I think he's going to go on to be a quality player, and I definitely see him as part of the Manchester United first team starting every week in the next 2, 3, 4 years, all right? But to throw him in at the deep end against Liverpool away from home, maybe he'll go in and absolutely smash it, okay? And maybe we'll be proven wrong, but I think it is a lot of expectations put on such a young player. Whereas if you bring in someone like Amrabat, who was 26, he's played in the World Cup, he had a really good World Cup, he's just got to the final of a European competition, etc., etc. I think he would be really, really solid in that midfield and would make us a really difficult team to beat. So I can see why we're linked to these players. I can see why we're linked to Rasmus Hojlund, why we're linked to Sofyan Amrabat. It makes a lot of sense. It really, really does. And I'm just hoping and praying that we get both of those signings over the line. More so for me is Amrabat, because literally this formation we have on the screen now and this lineup, it is absolutely fundamental that we have Amrabat in this team, because otherwise, who do you put instead of Amrabat? You put Kobbie Mainoo, don't you? You don't put Eriksen, you don't put Mason Mount, because if you played Mason Mount, Fernandes and Casemiro away at Manchester City, you're probably going to get absolutely battered, to be completely honest with you, because Fernandes and Mason Mount aren't really very defensive. So you're ultimately playing with one defensive midfielder, Casemiro. If he has a bad game, then we're absolutely screwed. You know what I mean? So it's putting a lot of pressure on Casemiro. Whereas if you've got Amrabat and Casemiro, I honestly think that is an absolute wall in front of your defence. Honestly, that is such a solid pairing for a defensive midfield partnership, in my opinion. Again, I don't want to see this formation being played in every single game, but in those really, really big away games against the kind of Manchester Cities, the Liverpools, the Chelseas, I would be more than happy to see this formation and us to be a little bit more pragmatic, to try and hold the ball in midfield and really, really just dominate the midfield game, because I think with this team, we can definitely do that. But do let me know what you think about this one. Obviously, as I said, this formation here is a 4-2-3-1, which is more what I would expect us to play away from home. Let me know what you think about this. Are you expecting us to just play 4-3-3 every game? Do you think we will just play 4-2-3-1? I'll get up the other formation really, really quick on the screen again. So this is what I expect us to play in the games where we're more at home against this kind of lesser teams. It's a 4-3-3, but obviously Casemiro is kind of slightly dropped back as more of the defensive midfielder. But Casemiro did really well last season. He went forward a lot. He passed a lot of balls through. He did impress me in his attacking game last season. So by all means, I'm not saying that Casemiro just stays back as an extra defender. I'm just saying, based on those kind of three players we have in the midfield position, Casemiro is the more defensive-minded one out of Mason Mount and Fernandes. But as always, do let me know in the comment section what formation you think Erik ten Hag will play next season, what you think of my kind of predictions of how we'll play. Do you like the idea that I've kind of put forward of a 4-3-3 at home and a 4-2-3-1 away against the bigger opponents? As always, I look forward to seeing you guys' opinions, so do get involved in the comment section. Please do smash a like on the video on your way out, and please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Daily Red Devil. Lots of love. Peace out.